app.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. After the conclusion of the NATO summit, President Biden delivering his first live and unscripted press conference in 8 months, his every word and move being scrutinized following his debate performance, which sparked calls from within Biden's party to end his re-election campaign. At that summit, President Biden, along with Ukraine's President Zelensky and NATO leaders, announcing more than 20 countries and the EU have signed a compact pledging long-term support for Ukraine's defense and recovery.
What happens to Ukraine matters. It matters to all of Europe. It matters to NATO. Quite frankly, it matters to the whole world.
Former President Trump's lawyers calling on the judge in his New York hush money trial to overturn his conviction in the wake of the Supreme Court's recent ruling on presidential immunity. The Israeli military acknowledged a string of errors in its response to the deadly Hamas attacks last October 7th, including slow response times and disorganization. Wall Street, the Dow up 32 points today. This is ABC News. China is pushing back on NATO members.
Beijing accuses the alliance of seeking security at the expense of others and bluntly says, don't bring chaos to Asia. The strong statement by a foreign ministry spokesman comes a day after NATO labeled China a decisive enabler of Russia's war against Ukraine. He adds NATO hyping up China's responsibility on the Ukraine issue is unresponsible and has sinister motives. Tom Rivers, ABC News at the Foreign Desk.
A United Airlines flight from Miami to New Jersey had to make an unscheduled landing in Orlando this week after a fight apparently broke out between a woman and a flight attendant. Police say the passenger was taken to a hospital for an evaluation. Delta Airlines reports a second quarter profit drop of 29%, blaming higher costs and cheap base-level fares on low-cost carriers. Revenue from premium Delta passengers jumped 10%, but sales in the main cabin were flat. Dave Packer, ABC News.
Are you and your family weather ready? I'm Terry Barr, producer of the Slice of Wisconsin series. Wisconsin weather is ever-changing, and all of us with Civic Media believe awareness can make a difference. Our weather-ready stories will offer the information you need. Here's meteorologist Brittany Merlot.
The heat is on. Did you know that high temperatures are the leading cause of weather-related deaths? Here are some safety tips when you're dealing with a Wisconsin scorcher. First, do not leave another person or your pet in the car. 8 kids died in hot cars in the last several years across the state, and it didn't even have to happen. Look before you lock and walk away. Work outside, keep water close, and stay hydrated. Take a break in the shade, and if you can limit time in the heat, even better. Chill out in the air conditioning or find your community's cooling shelter. And check on your family and neighbors to be sure that they're safe too. Stay cool and be cool by being weather ready. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot.
I'm Lisa Hale with WGBW News. Your news in depth. Find it in the news section at WGBW.FM.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Civic Media is reviewing procedures after an edited version of an interview between talk show host Earl Ingram and President Biden aired last week. CEO Sage Weil tells Todd Albaugh the choice made in the moment won't happen again.
This was a first for us. This is our first presidential interview, and the first time we've had these types of requests. And unfortunately, the judgment in the moment was not ideal. And so my job is to make sure that we prevent these types of mistakes going forward.
Ingram will stay on as host. Weil calls Ingram an invaluable voice for Milwaukee and Wisconsin. Wisconsin's Democratic Secretary of State is settling an open records lawsuit. Sarah Godlewski was appointed the same day Doug LaFollette resigned last year. Republicans are looking for evidence of a prior agreement. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Here's what you need to know closer to home.
The Brewers lose to the Pirates. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Brewers losing to the Pittsburgh Pirates today 1-0 at a matinee at American Family Field, 36,000 fans. Pittsburgh with one of the hottest young pitchers in baseball, Paul Skeens, just 22 years old, out of Fullerton, California, already headed to the All-Star game next week. That's Major League Baseball history. 1 year into the league, pitched a no-hitter through 7 innings. Christian Yelich headed to the All-Star game himself next week, went 0 for 4 today, and talked about facing Paul Skeens. Clemens.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good pitcher. It's good stuff. He really did. He just did a good job pitching, honestly. Guys have velo in the major leagues, but, just being able to pitch and kind of just throw anything at any time, it keeps you off balance. And, I think we could have done a better job of getting him out of the game sooner. I think we let him off the hook with some at-bats there at the end where if we extended them, kind of realized what was happening, we could have bought ourselves an extra inning or two.
It's the first series the Brewers have lost at home since April. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. A stray evening storm otherwise clearing tonight and lows in the low 60s. Sunny and mild again tomorrow with highs in the mid-80s. Slight storm chances for the weekend, highs upper 80s to low 90s. Staying warm into Monday with a few storms, then cooler for the rest of next week. It's 82 right now.
Crude and Dom.
Tune in to the Devil's Advocates radio show. We will replay Joe Biden in Madison last Friday and the Earl Ingram interview.
Broadcasting live statewide from the Civic Media Studios in Green Bay. This is Nite Lite with Pete Schwaba, your inside source on everything entertainment from Wisconsin to Hollywood. And now, a guy who wears a bathing suit in the shower, Pete Schwaba.
Hey, Wisconsin. Welcome to Nite Lite. The days are getting shorter. I don't mean to be a wet blanket, but this is sort of like evening light for part of the year. Mostly it's night light. And the days are getting shorter. So remember that, Conrad, when we started this show, it was dark out at like 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah. It was midnight light.
It's horrible. It's coming back. But beautiful day here in Wisconsin today, wherever you're joining us from in our great state, in our beautiful state, the summer state. I think we should start that. Wisconsin is the summer state of America. It is a great state in the summer and fall, for that matter. Wherever you're joining us from, though, welcome to this Thursday night edition of Nite Lite with Pete Schwaba. Conrad is flying shotgun. Are you ready to do this, Conrad? You ready to?
I think.
Make some radio?
I think so.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that because I'm not.
Oh.
I don't want to be here.
Oh,
Kidding.
okay. Oh.
When have I ever not wanted to be here? I don't even know what to do with myself all day. It's terrible. I just pace. And it's to the point now, we've been on the air for about 7 months. I don't know what to do with myself during the day, and I wonder what I used to do before I had this show to prepare and had to talk so much at night. I guess I just watched TV. Took a walk. Hung out with my kids. I don't know. What did you do, Conrad? What were you doing? What was your gig before you did this?
I worked at Champ Sports.
Were you a sales associate?
I was a sales associate and associate manager at one point. So
associate manager. What are those? Is that associate to the manager or associate manager? Was it like a Dwight Schrute or a Gareth thing or what?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
No, it's that the manager didn't have to be there. I could be in charge when he was away, not working.
Did you boss people around?
As much as I could.
You know what I've always wanted to be?
What's that?
An archangel. Because I would boss the living daylights out of the regular angels. They would not want to cross paths with me. If I ever do make it to archangel status, everybody's in trouble. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so we got a fun show tonight. Jimmy Pardo is here at 7:35. My old pal Jimmy, a friend of mine from stand-up. We started together. He started a little before me, but one of the guys I've known the longest in the entire entertainment business is one of my oldest friends. Jimmy Pardo will be here. Can't wait to talk to Jimmy. He's also a huge fan of the band Chicago. So we're going to talk a little bit about the band Chicago, which you don't really think of Chicago when you think of like the mega huge bands. What do you think? Aerosmith, U2, the Stones, Springsteen. I would put Chicago's catalog and their body of work against, well, definitely ahead of Aerosmith or some of the, maybe not Springsteen or U2 or the Stones, but man, they are right there. One of my favorite bands too, but Jimmy Pardo loves Chicago. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that with Jimmy and about his podcast, Never Not Funny, which is wildly popular. And Jim is a great guy and a lot of fun to talk to. He has been on the show before, and I anticipate a gay old time tonight. It'll be fun. 8:35, Dick Napinski from EAA. He's the communications director for the EAA. He'll be here to talk about this huge, really cool event that we have here in Northeast Wisconsin. It's like the biggest air show in the world, and they get 700,000 people to attend every year. And that should give people confidence that we can handle the draft here next year, because I don't think we'll quite have that many people. But the EAA is an incredible event. Dick is the communications director, and he joins us in hour 2. Conrad, are you a pilot?
I can't say I'm a pilot.
No, never tried it. You ever been on one of those little planes?
Yes, I have.
Why?
I've been in one of the smallest airplanes from Chicago to Milwaukee too. That was like a 15-seater.
It's not a pleasant experience.
It was a 50-minute ride, so it didn't really matter.
But was this like a jet that took off from Chicago to Milwaukee? I'm talking about, have you been in like a 6-seater or a 4-seater?
I don't think I haven't been in air in one.
Okay.
But I've sat in one.
You've gone and sat in one? How does that work?
You can do that at EAA.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought you sounded like a lunatic there for a minute. What's that guy doing over there?
I tried to steal it.
Yeah, hotwire that 4-seater. I had a really awkward experience today. I found out mid-hug that the person I was hugging was not a hugger. Very strange moment. It was an old classmate of mine who I saw at the grocery store who I haven't seen in about 25 years. And I'm a hugger. You know, when I see someone that I have affection toward, my first instinct is to grab him and give him a squeeze, you know? But I took him out of his comfort zone, to say the least. And no other body parts were touching. It wasn't weird. I don't get that crazy, but I do the like wrap around and sometimes the bro hug where there's a handshake between so things don't get awkward and weird. But this was different. This was a hug, and he just kind of went stiff and gave me he kind of overemphasized. He was extra demonstrative. Like, I hugged him, and he slapped me on the back really hard, sort of to let me know nothing is going to happen between the two of us. I just want you to know that, Mr. Hugger. That is the vibe I got from him. And it was terribly awkward. And I almost apologized, but I didn't. I broke the hug. We talked for a couple minutes, and I left. But it got me thinking, and especially for women, and I'll talk to Jimmy about this too when he's here at 7:35. When is it okay? You know, you see, like, I used to watch these dating shows once in a while. Like, there was a show called, I think it was called First Date. And, you know, it's a fun show. But a lot of times these guys, they've never met the girl before, and they go in for a hug. And when I used to do stand-up comedy, at the end of the week, there was always those comics that would go and hug every waitress. See you later. Oh, goodbye. You're not good friends. And a lot of the times it was the married guy, because that's like an excuse to touch another woman. Not even that hugs got weird, but I'm just like, I always kind of felt bad. I'm like, does she want to hug him? Like, he's kind of a weird dude or a gross dude. Even if he was a good-looking dude, going up and hugging every waitress at a comedy club at the end of the week, I thought was strange. So my question tonight is for the women. How well do you have to know a guy before you casually hug them? Or when is a hug not okay? Let me know. I'm curious about this because I have had this discussion just kind of in the living room with my sisters, my mom, my wife, you know, and most of them are kind of like, yeah, you don't need to hug me. Not when I first meet you. No thanks. Guys, weigh in too. If you think it's weird that when other guys do this, do you do it? This is judgment free for the most part. As long as you don't get too graphic. Let me know. When is it not okay to hug? 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. And I really want to hear from the women. How well do you have to know a guy before you casually hug them? When is a hug not okay? Let me know. Checking in on the stream is Sherry. Good evening, Sherry. Great to have you with us as always. So glad you listened to the show. And I would love to hear Sherry's take on the question. I bet Sherry's got an answer. Sherry seems huggable. Now I've just made the whole thing weird. Also, it's a What to Watch Thursday. So text in what you plan on watching this weekend. Are you going to go to the movies? Are you going to see a blockbuster in the theater? Are you going to stream something at home? Are you binge watching something? Text us and let us know what you're going to watch this weekend. It is Thursday. We have to prep. You can't just go right into TV watching, folks. You have to prepare. Stretch out if you would. Make a snack. Light a cigar. Norm Kopesky was here the other night, taught me how to properly smoke a cigar. That video is on Facebook if you want to check it out on the Nite Lite with Pete Schwaba Facebook page. So what do you plan to watch? Let me know. We'll read those at 8:20 tonight. Give everybody's suggestions. We can have a free information exchange. Did you hear about this, Conrad? I thought this was crazy. I know 4th of July is sort of in the rear view, but did you hear about the guy who put the firework on his head?
I did, and
what do you make of that? What is this guy doing?
I just have to think of what is the thought process behind that? Just it has to be with a lot of alcoholic beverages.
They did say that. I don't think he was a drinker per se, and he did drink this particular night, the 4th of July. I think he had a couple drinks. He was not typically a drinker.
I still don't get how you can. Even if you had a couple drinks, I don't get
right.
Like, yeah, let me put fireworks on my head.
Well, and he had an Uncle Sam hat. Those can be big hats. He probably thought he was okay. I don't know why you think that would be.
Yeah.
There was a guy when I worked at Sports Soup, host Matt Eisman of American Ninja Warrior, and who hosted Sports Soup then, will be on the show next Tuesday night. That will be fun. But this reminded me of a clip we saw on Sports Soup where there was a skateboarder and he used to fall a lot off his skateboard. He would never wear a helmet. And he said on one of the episodes, well, it's like my hair is like my natural helmet. How do you even talk to a person like that?
That sounds like something a little kid would say to their mom so they wouldn't have to wear a helmet.
Probably. I just don't understand. It's just people on another playing field. But anyway, this guy, I think he thought he'd be okay if he put the firework on top of his head and lit it. And obviously he caused massive hemorrhaging, or just inside of his head just went crazy. So much so that an autopsy was not necessary. I don't know. That doesn't really surprise me, but I'm also like, what on earth? I feel so bad. You know what? I feel more bad for the people around him that had to see this. It's just so strange. And the Uncle Sam hat.
Never a good idea.
Never a good idea.
Mix alcohol and then do fireworks.
And fireworks. I can't believe it doesn't happen more, though. I have to be honest. I feel like with the amount of dumbasses you see in the news or social media or whatever, I can't believe this doesn't happen more. I got to be honest. There you go. I'm a glass half full guy. This is actually a good thing. Not for his family, but it is good it doesn't happen more often, because it certainly could. Okay, lots of fun tonight, folks. Jimmy Pardo here at 7:35. Dick Napinski here at 8:35 to talk EAA. We'll have some laughs with Jimmy first. Let me know, when is it okay when is a hug not okay? That's the question. When is a hug not okay? Think about what you're going to watch this weekend, too. It's a What to Watch Thursday. I'm Pete Schwaba. This is Nite Lite on the Civic Media Radio Network.
At this moment, you need everything. In that dress, my thoughts are the best, but you're dirty. Come on.
You're listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW.
At Uline, the prevailing opinion is, if you don't live it, you don't believe it. The people at Uline believe in hard work, and they live it by being there 24/7 to answer your call, having 41,000 items in stock, and offering same-day shipping from 12 locations across North America. Business owners, sellers, buyers, shippers, and packers believe it. Uline is the hard-working, dependable source for your shipping and industrial supplies. Visit uline.com.
Covering all the news that affects you with humor and a unique perspective. Matinaire on Air with Jane Matinaire. Weekdays 10 till noon on the Talk of Green Bay, 97.9 FM and 1590 AM WGBW, and on the Civic Media app.
You are listening to your local Civic Media radio station on air. Thank you. Did you know we are always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app too? And if you miss
not okay. 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. I want to hear from the women. How well do you have to know a guy before you casually hug them? Sherry says, it depends on the situation. She says, I give hugs all the time. You never know if that person will have any more hugs in a while. That's true, Sherry. But I think, obviously, Sherry, you probably have a good sense of people and when it's okay. I think some people don't. So keep those texts coming, folks. This is I don't know. Conrad, what are you going to watch this weekend? We got to talk about this because I'm going to share mine at 8:20. But I don't know. I've got a couple I want to see.
I know. I want to see, what is it, Fly Me to the Moon? Or
Oh, it's on your list?
Yeah, that looks...
Why, is Kate McKinnon in it?
It just looks interesting. You know, it's a movie based on a conspiracy theory. So I think it would be really fun to watch.
Yeah.
And then I'm only 2 episodes in right now, but a new Netflix series called Receivers, and it follows the NFL wide receivers this past year: Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Adams, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and Justin Jefferson. And it follows them all season.
Oh, okay. So you're watching what they did last season, like
yes.
when they follow. Okay.
Yep. And the year before that, they did quarterbacks. So now it's on to receivers.
Who did they do on quarterbacks? Who are the quarterbacks?
It was Kirk Cousins,
Snooze,
Marcus Mariota,
Snooze,
and Patrick Mahomes.
All right, that's one A-lister, but the other two guys, really? You couldn't get anybody? How does Marcus Mariota?
Yeah, I didn't know how he got onto it, but
he had to be an alternate.
I'm thinking that a lot of quarterbacks just didn't want to do it.
I bet they paid like Patrick Mahomes like a boatload of money.
Oh, yeah.
And the other guys probably paid them to do it.
But then, so I went onto Prime Video today when I was eating lunch, and I saw that there is a new Sausage Party TV show.
That's so stupid. That movie and that poster, I can't believe I haven't seen that yet because I was so curious about that when it came out. I'm like, I have to see this. It's probably really dumb, but what if it's not? Was it terrible?
No, it's really funny.
Okay. Is that Seth Rogen?
Yes.
Okay.
Seth Rogen directed it, or well, I don't know how you direct an anime. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
He wrote the script.
Sure.
And then so he made a TV show now for Prime Video. And I watched one episode. It's just so stupid.
But
I was laughing the whole time.
In a good way?
I was laughing the whole time.
Oh, well, that's good then.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Those are a couple things I'm going to watch.
This was kind of cool. I saw this. The Electric Light Orchestra. Are you familiar with ELO?
No.
All right. They are one of my favorite bands from the 70s and 80s. Jeff Lynne is the leader. They have had the most top 40 hits without a number one song. And honestly, I couldn't care less if a song was number one or not. ELO has so many great songs, and they're songs you cannot turn off when they're on the radio. They've had 20 songs make the Billboard Top 40. No other band has done that unless they've had a number one. That kind of surprised me, actually. Because they did music for the movie Xanadu, which was kind of a popular movie like in 1981, I think. But the highest they went was number 4. Crazy. Okay, Jimmy Pardo is coming up at 7:35. He is our first guest tonight. We have some stand-up. Jimmy started doing stand-up in the late 80s. And just a few years ago, he was Conan O'Brien's opening act. Every night before the show, Jimmy would warm up the crowd, get everybody going. He was a frequent guest on Conan. He's been on The Tonight Show. He's been on just about every stand-up show you can do. And here is a clip. I thought this was very funny. This is Jimmy talking to Conan.
You do a lot of shopping.
Stars, they're just like us.
Yeah.
Stars is a strong word. Now listen, I do like to shop. That's a true statement about me.
Yeah. So you're at Ross?
I'm at Ross, and I'm looking for I don't know, a blouse or something, and I'm in the men's department, and I see a guy looking at me, and I'm like, all right, maybe he recognizes me from my 6 lines on Becker, and that made me laugh. But I see him, and he's staring at me, and he won't stop staring at me. I'm like, what's going on with this guy, right?
Right.
What's this guy's deal? You want to play games, buddy?
Right.
So he keeps looking at me, and I'm like, why does he keep staring at me? What is this guy's problem? So I try to get away from him. So I turn around to go down another aisle, and this son of a won't stop staring at me.
Yeah.
And he's just standing there. He's just standing there looking at me. I'm like, what is that? I see him on the peripheral. I'm like, what is this guy's deal, Andy? And I never confront people, because I don't want to get in a fight. I'm 5'4". What am I going to do? Punch him in the thigh?
Yeah.
So I see that, and so I make the turn. I'm trying to avoid him. He still has the gaze on me. I'm like, you know what? Enough is enough. So I get up, and I walk over, and I go, you want to do this? You want a piece of me? Let's do this.
Right.
And then I saw who it was. I got a nice laugh out of it, and I took a picture. Can we show the picture here of who it was a poster.
I love that. But I do think that guy is looking at you kind of creepy. He's creepy. He's a smug.
I got in a fight with a poster.
Yeah. That's more sad than anything else.
I'm an idiot. There's no doubt.
Jimmy's comedy is it is very visual, but his jokes are great too. And they showed like this sort of Armani or, Abercrombie Finch type model that he thought was giving him the big eye, wanted to throw down. Funny stuff. Jimmy will be here in just a few minutes. My great-grandpa, T.D. Griffin, was out to eat one night with my parents. Same type of deal. He had just to throw back some scotch every once in a while, as I understand it. I was 2 when he passed. But they were at a fish restaurant in downtown Chicago, my folks who were newly married at the time, and my great-grandpa Griffin. And he thought this guy was eyeballing him while he was eating his dinner. And he kept saying, funny looking guy. As it turns out, it was like the knob on the end of the railing of the stairs. So it's not a poster. I don't know if it's worse to fight a poster or the, is it a Yule post, a Newell post? I don't know. Conrad, have you ever hugged someone? What's your policy with women? When you meet a girl,
no, I've never
hug her
hugged
right
anyone.
away, right? You've never hugged anyone?
Yeah.
That seems extreme and dramatic and wrong.
No, it definitely depends on if I know them. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
But if they lean for a hug, I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
I never go out for a hug.
You never,
to be honest,
you don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not really the huggy type.
I think that's smart.
Yeah.
You and I have never hugged. That will probably continue, and I'm fine with that. I'm a hugger, and you know what? If you ever leave and you say, Pete, maybe I should have given you a hug when you went to Italy. Because let's be honest, you don't know if you're going to, okay, I get it. But if you're going to, that's a big trip. You might not have come back from that. And then you'd be dead. And on your deathbed, you would have said, I should have hugged Schwaba. People have said it before. I'm not saying it's number one on your deathbed. It's just something you might have contemplated. So, all right, we're going to talk about Chicago, the band, legendary band, somehow still kind of underrated in my opinion. We're going to talk about Jimmy's podcast, a new show he has at UCB.com, Pop Culture Game Show. We're going to talk about all things comedy. Jimmy Pardo's coming up next on Nite Lite with Pete Schwaba on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Here comes my baby. Here she comes now. And it comes as no surprise to me with another guy. Here comes my baby. Here she comes now. Walking with a love that's oh so fine. Never to be mine, no matter how I try. You'll never walk alone.
This is the talk of Green Bay, WGBW.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. After the conclusion of the NATO summit, President Biden delivering his first live and unscripted press conference in 8 months, his every word and move being scrutinized following his debate performance, which sparked calls from within Biden's party to end his re-election campaign. At that summit, President Biden, along with Ukraine's President Zelensky and NATO leaders, announcing more than 20 countries and the EU have signed a compact pledging long-term support for Ukraine's defense and recovery.
What happens to Ukraine matters. It matters to all of Europe. It matters to NATO. Quite frankly, it matters to the whole world.
Former President Trump's lawyers calling on the judge in his New York hush money trial to overturn his conviction in the wake of the Supreme Court's recent ruling on presidential immunity. The Israeli military acknowledged a string of errors in its response to the deadly Hamas attacks last October 7th, including slow response times and disorganization. Wall Street, the Dow up 32 points today. This is ABC News.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. The family of a black man killed during a struggle with security guards in Milwaukee last month say they don't want his case forgotten. Milwaukee is gearing up for next week's Republican National Convention. Devontae Mitchell's family says they saw security video of guards punching and kicking him, and he was not armed. It's not clear why Mitchell was at the hotel or why the confrontation started. Donald Trump has a 9-point lead among voters age 50 and older in Wisconsin. That's from a new poll from the AARP. Pollster Bob Ward says older voters are worried about Social Security and unhappy about the economy.
The debate had its impact on this race, but I think the fundamentals of this race is that people are really feeling an economic pinch.
Ward says older voters appear more motivated than usual. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Here's what you need to know closer to home.
This is your hometown radio, refreshed, keeping you informed, entertained, and connected locally across the Civic Media Network.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. The family of a black man killed during a struggle with security guards in Milwaukee last month say they don't want his case forgotten. Milwaukee is gearing up for next week's Republican National Convention. Devontae Mitchell's family says they saw security video of guards punching and kicking him, and he was not armed. It's not clear why Mitchell was at the hotel or why the confrontation started. Donald Trump has a 9-point lead among voters age 50 and older in Wisconsin. That's from a new poll from the AARP. Pollster Bob Ward says older voters are worried about Social Security and unhappy about the economy.
The debate had its impact on this race, but I think the fundamentals of this race is that people are really feeling an economic pinch.
Ward says older voters appear more motivated than usual. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Here's what you need to know closer to home.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. A stray evening storm otherwise clearing tonight and lows in the low 60s. Sunny and mild again tomorrow with highs in the mid-80s. Slight storm chances for the weekend, highs upper 80s to low 90s. Staying warm into Monday with a few storms, then cooler for the rest of next week. It's 82 right now.
100 days, 144,000 minutes. The countdown to the November presidential election is on, and Maggie Dawn is counting too as she continues her special segment, Biden's Top 100.
Having heard from each and every one of you, I should start talking about what President Biden is proposing us for his second term.
Biden's Top 100 continues. You're invited to be part of it too. Call or text The Maggie Dawn Show, weekdays starting at 2 across the Civic Media Radio Network and the app.
The Todd Alba Show.
Brady joining us live via phone.
I tell the guys before every game, and honestly try to do it before every practice, challenge is going to come. This team is not just going to show up and allow us to walk all over them and win. Really what matters is how are we going to respond to that. And if you can adapt and use it as a learning opportunity, it's going to set you up to go accomplish darn near anything you want to.
I think there are a lot of people that need to hear that message today.
The Todd Alba Show. Weekdays noon till 2 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app. Earl Ingram.
Join me Friday. A good friend.
Broadcasting live statewide from the Civic Media Studios in Green Bay. This is Nite Lite with Pete Schwaba. your inside source on everything entertainment from Wisconsin to Hollywood.
Whatever gets you through the night, it's all right.
And now, a guy who hates shaking hands, Pete Schwaba.
Welcome back. Tonight's question is for the ladies, the women, the girls, the gals, females. Conrad, what do you call women typically?
Gals.
Gals. So 1972. When is a hug not okay? Women, how well do you have to know a guy before you casually hug them? Guys, you can weigh in too if you want. 855-752-4842. But I really want to hear from the women. Some great guests coming up. Terry Barr will be on tomorrow night, the co-host of Max Inc. She always brings us fun new music. Lisa Hale will join us too to talk about her new show here at Civic Media called New Wisconsin Weekend, which premieres this weekend. Next week, from American Ninja Warrior, Matt Eisman will join me, and from Reno 911, Thomas Lennon. Right now, I'm very excited to introduce my next guest, though. He is here now in the moment, getting all zen with my old pal, Jimmy Pardo. He's the host of the Never Not Funny podcast, a phenomenal stand-up comedian whose TV credits are too many to list, and he joins us now on Nite Lite. Hey, Jim.
Hello, Peter. You go by Peter?
I didn't mean. Did I wake you? I'm sorry.
I couldn't take you talking about the other guests for one more second. I just couldn't. I tried to stay with it, and I just couldn't.
I actually trimmed it down. I was going to go on. It was like a 7-minute dealio.
Oh, I appreciate you cutting it tight.
I cut
then
it down for you.
Well, first of all, it's great to see you. Secondly, I don't think you should ever go in for a hug on a stranger. I think it's weird.
I was going to ask you, and I wanted to ask you, Jim, because at the beginning of the show, I talked about other comics. When you'd work a comedy club, there were those headliners that were the huggers. They just met the waitresses, but they got to hug them all and give them a really kind of a long hug too.
Yeah,
that was like somehow acceptable in the 90s, and I don't know that it is now.
I don't know either, because I don't do it when I get to a comedy club. I'm in and out. I don't pay any attention to what the other comedy. I work with good people. I usually work with people that aren't going to be going around creepily hugging waitresses and hostesses and maybe even management. It was always weird, right? And let's be honest though, and those guys were never funny.
They were the married guys. I think they were going for any kind of contact they could kind of accidentally or back their way into or whatever. It was just a weird. And even back then, I wonder, I'm like, I don't know if that's okay. Like,
I don't.
Once in a while, I'd hug someone if I really was happy to see them and had been there a few times, but I don't know.
I would let them initiate it if they wanted to hug me. I'm not going to deny a hug. You know that. I'm open to hugs. I'm a hugger.
I love a good hug.
From Pete, from way back.
We've hugged several times, Jim. We've had some great hugs too, I will say, over the years.
You and I have done nothing but hugged. I mean, it's whether it's physically or audibly, we hug.
Now you ruined it. We've done nothing but hug.
When you think about those guys too that were the comedians, they were usually about 35 to 40 years old, and the wait staff generally is 21, 22.
Yes.
So that even made it weirder. Like, you're hugging, that's your dad, man. I mean, you're like their dad. So it's creepy. But so I say a hug's not okay unless and I'll use your vernacular, the gal asks for it.
That's Conrad.
Yeah, it's Conrad. Conrad, we got to cut gal loose. I think that it comes off a little condescending and maybe a little hillbilly.
Get with the times, Conrad. Don't be such a young whippersnapper.
Ladies?
Sure, ladies is good.
Ladies, sure. I think just women.
Women, yeah.
Hello,
I like
women. Hello, ladies.
How are things, Jim?
Wonderful. Just got done watching our president have a speech, and I thought he did a press conference. But I thought I have not watched the pundits' take on it yet, but I thought he did a great job. And let's hope we could just save democracy is all I really care about.
Yeah. You've gone, I will say, I'm kind of not surprised, but we don't really do politics on this show because it's on this network most of the day. But you're not afraid to talk about your political beliefs on your podcast or anywhere else. You've never been afraid of losing followers and just kind of taking a stand. And I admire that.
Well, first of all, I say thank you for that. And B, when everything went weird in 2016, 2015, 16, it was time to not be quiet anymore about it. And it was, I was a big Hillary supporter, and still think she would have been a great, amazing president. And we lost a lot of listeners. Never Not Funny did. We lost a lot, but I still stand by, Trump was not politics 101. It's a different thing. And I kind of still feel like I'm not really talking politics. We're debating. We're trying to save democracy, and we're going up against this lunatic. So it's not, which healthcare are we going to use? Whose plan are we going to use? Which tax plan are we going to use? We're talking about potentially saving our country, and I think it's a different world. Hi, I'm comedian Jimmy Pardo.
When you say Hillary, you're talking about, of course, Hillary Duff, who.
No, I was talking Swank. I was talking Hillary Swank. But if you want to
see that,
yes.
I could get behind.
Yeah. She'd be a terrific leader.
Yeah.
Hillary Swank. You ever see her with a left hook?
I have, and you know what? I tried to hug her once, and it didn't go well. So I don't know.
Right?
She might not accept my support. But
well, she was in that movie, wasn't she? In the $1 Million Baby or whatever that movie.
Clint Eastwood, yeah.
Clint's looking good, by the way. You see Clint lately?
No, but did you hear what Eddie Murphy said when he went to see Marlon Brando? Brando said, "I don't like that kid." Wait, what did he say? "I can't stand that kid with a gun." And he was talking about Clint Eastwood. And Marlon Brando was only like 3 years older than Clint Eastwood. And Clint Eastwood's like 104 now, and I still wouldn't mess with him.
I think you could take him now, Pete.
Think so?
I would say that in the past you didn't have a chance against Clint. But now if you see him, he's and look, people get old. It happens. I really think you should take him on. I think you finally could. I think you could take him.
I'll tell you this: he'll never see me coming. Not just because he has bad eyesight either. I mean, he will not see me coming. Jim.
No, you know what?
Fast and
I'll
hard.
say this: you're fast and you are agile, and he will not have a clue, and he will not be lucky punk. To quote him, I think I'm quoting him. Is that him? I don't watch movies.
All I know is my nickname used to be the Bishop, and they called me that for a reason. And when I say they, I mean
I think the reason was we couldn't come up with another one. I think that's the reason you had that nickname.
All right. Tell us about, you've got a really cool game show on called Pop Cultured, July 13th. That's coming up.
Yeah, this Saturday.
Tell us about that, Jim.
That is a really fun game show. This month's panel, we have 3 comedians on who compete really in nonsense games. And I award points that are basically meaningless. And then we crown somebody that month's pop culture champion. This month we have the great Andy Daly, the great Dana Gould, and the wonderfully talented Alyssa Sabo. 3 amazingly talented people and very funny. And they basically vie for my affections with their, if they make me laugh or if I think they're being clever, I give them points. If they get on my nerves, I take away points. I'll give audience members points. We do it live at the UCB Theater in LA. You can come and watch it live, but it also streams at UCB.com. And you could watch it. You can watch it there. It's
so cool.
An hour of amazingly dumb, fun comedy. Sincerely.
And you stream it live when you're streaming it at 9:00 on this coming Saturday, 9 p.m. Central. That's live. That's a live stream.
That is live, but I believe they can also buy it after the fact, Pete. If if you're not available at 9:00 on a Saturday, which is prime real estate, I understand that. Certainly, there in Wisconsin, you got to get out and see the Brew Crew, and you got to go out and see the Bucks. Is that?
We've got TiVo. We've got TiVo.
Cool.
You
know what? Take advantage of the technology, then you could zip through the commercials.
I will say your scoring system does not sound very, very scientific, Jim. It's just
up to the
funny guy in the room.
It is. Look, at all times, unless I'm in a room with Conan O'Brien, I'm the funniest guy in the room, and so you need to make me happy. And if you do, I give you points. It's that simple.
That doesn't sound very scientific either. The guy funnier in the room is the one who signs your checks, so he's automatically funnier too.
Well, he's automatically funnier. He's O'Brien automatically wins just on size alone. He's going to win. He's a walking eclipse whenever he shows up into a room, and both by comedically and size. And but if you're on the panel on Jimmy Pardo's at Pop Culture with Jimmy Pardo, yeah, you're going to have to make me happy. And if I'm happy, I give you points. And Pete, to your point, the audience doesn't always like it. Like,
right.
If they think somebody's funny and I give them 3 points and I give the other guy 7 and the other guy 12, they'll go, oh, and I'll go, fine. Then I'll take away the 3 too. He's got 0. You happy?
I just want to remind you, Jim, every once in a while I have someone on the show and they think it's a podcast, and it is, but we are on live radio. And I thought you were just about to go there because that's happened before.
With
a swear.
No, sir. Please.
Okay.
I'm a professional who is at all times hoping the right person's listening so I can get a daytime shift on some station. That's all I want. I want to be on radio, and nobody understands this. They think I'm kidding.
Seriously?
They think I'm kidding.
Oh, you're kidding, right?
I want to hit the post. I want to play songs. I want to take calls. right? I got great ideas. Is it okay to hug, not to hug? I'm ready to go.
You want to do time and temp? You
I
could
wanna
do that
time
in your
and temp.
sleep.
I want to let you know. I want to let you know it's 12 before the hour and, 48 past or whatever the heck that would be. I do it. I keep it clean, Pete. You don't have to worry about that with me. I'm
All
a
right.
professional from way back.
I thought so, but I wasn't sure. I also think, you're a guy that when you say you want to do radio, and I think you're probably half kidding, but probably if the right situation came along, you'd be there. But you've got this great podcast. You're totally your own boss. You take gigs, and I love this gig. I mean, don't get me wrong, but you're in the catbird seat, man. You got like a great existence right now, right?
First of all, I don't disagree with anything you just said. But I'm gunning for your spot. I'm gunning.
Conrad, take a memo. This will not happen.
Conrad, I'll live local. I'll live closer to the studio. I won't have the commute that Schwaba makes himself do. I'll be closer if
An
you need
hour
buddy.
each way.
Yeah,
he's
right.
gonna live at City Deck Landing. Get Clint Eastwood on the phone. We got to take care of this.
I'm living. And by the way, Pete, I'm not half kidding. I will take a radio job tomorrow.
All right, let me make a few phone calls, Jim. I have no
You can't
pull,
help
but
me.
Dude,
You're
I would
doing-
listen.
You're doing farm reports in Wisconsin. How can you help me?
I'm not qualified to do farm reports. I don't have nearly the qualifications for that sort of thing. I just practice Ask Jackery on a 2-hour daily basis. And I appreciate the help tonight. So how can people, if they haven't yet, how can people, we got to get you back some listeners that you lost because you took a stand. Never Not Funny. Where can people download that or find it? Or
Well, at all podcasts, all your platforms. You can always go to jimmypardo.com. You can go to nevernotfunny.com. And that's where you get it. We've got great people. We had Paul Reiser on recently, and my son is now a regular on the show. He comes on quite a bit.
Nice.
And he's funnier than I am and will take over the Pardo empire one day, and rightfully so. He's just already, the fans are already saying, more of him, less of you is really the feedback we're getting.
You think he's going to pull a Caesar or something on you, Jim?
I wouldn't be surprised, Pete. I really wouldn't. And you know what? I'll say this. I welcome it. I really do.
You're ready to go. You're ready
ready
to
to go.
transition.
Yeah. If it gets me to that radio gig, I'm ready to go. Take it on, son.
Are you a good dad?
My son is, I mean this sincerely. My son's the nicest person I've ever met in my entire life. He truly is just a good person. And I'm a sarcastic buffoon comedian. And my wife is one of her. So, but people, am I a good dad? I think so. I think he wouldn't be. I think I should take. I'm really having a tough time answering this because I think I have to take some credit for him raising a good kid. But at the same time, you've known me 30 plus years. I'm a buffoon.
But you're a sweetheart of a guy. I ask you that just to see what you'd say. I think you're a great dad. I see your posts on social media. I don't live near you anymore, but Oliver just seems like a great kid. And I think most comics that I know and I'm friends with are very good dads. And I don't know if it's because, like, our house is chaotic, dysfunctional to a degree, but we laugh our butts off. And I think that makes up for all the other nonsense.
I think so too. And the fact that, like I say, my son is funny. My wife, Danielle, who you've had on as a guest, Danielle Koenig, is a brilliant comedy writer. So we're not running around doing vaudeville skits, but we have a great time. We laugh. We like hanging out with each other. We're, this 3-headed monster, to throw back to
oh wow, good
our
pull.
ill-fated tour of the early 90s. And with the great Steve Ayotte.
You just gave me an idea for a question next segment. So.
All right. I thought you were going to compliment Steve, and you just maybe gave me an idea for a new guest.
No, I've talked to Steve. He's like, yeah, I'd love to do it when I'm in Wisconsin. I'm like, you do it whenever. Let's talk about Steve next. All right, I want to ask Jimmy about the band Chicago next. We're going to talk about working the road and playing tag in the middle of the day in shopping malls. All that is coming up next, and I'm going to read my next 80 guests while Jim is here. He's going to hear all
Pete,
that.
get right to me.
And Conrad's going to talk to some gals during the break. A lot going on. Nite Lite with Pete Schwaba on the Civic Media Radio Network.
To the talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home for the Devil's Advocates radio show.
The Republican National Convention is being held in Milwaukee, and it marks the first time the RNC is in the Badger State. But Wisconsin holds a special spot in the election cycle, with the RNC the second consecutive political convention in Milwaukee. The city was picked for the Democratic National Convention in 2020, but due to COVID, most of it ended up being virtual. Do you know which city has hosted the most political conventions? Philadelphia, Chicago, or Boston? The answer coming up. Political conventions started in the 19th century. It remained the main way to select candidates until 1972, when presidential primaries determined the eventual nominee. Conventions are now considered more of a celebration of the candidate. So do you know which city has held the most political conventions? Chicago. The Republicans have been there 14 times, and the Democratic convention will be hosted there for the 11th time this summer. 50,000 people expected at the
Welcome back. It's a What to Watch Thursday. Send us your texts of what you are going to watch this weekend, and I will read them on the radio at 8:20. So 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. Let us know what you watch this weekend. Blockbuster movie, some binge or cringe watching. Jim, what are you watching?
We're on episode 4 of the new season of The Bear, and funny as ever. It's not funny. It's a drama that somehow is labeled as a comedy, but it's wonderful. It's terrific.
Yeah.
So we're watching that, and we just got done watching other things. We watch a lot of things. You know what I'm watching, Pete? Late at night, I'm watching, maybe you remember this when you were a kid, Harry O, starring David Jansen.
Oh, wow.
Remember Harry O?
Yeah. I
Love
mean,
it.
barely. I never watched it, but holy smokes.
It's great. I've been doing nothing but 70s detective / cop shows for the last few years, and I'm down to Harry O. That's how many I've watched.
Hey, have you watched the old Night Stalkers?
I tried. How do they hold up?
Yeah. I've only seen 2, and just okay. Like, I was hoping for like an X-Files, a cooler X-Files.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting. I mean, comedy's been a big part of my life, but I love cop shows, and same thing, mysteries, detective stuff. I've seen everything on now in that genre, but I may have to start going back too, because there's some good. Do they hold up? Does Harry O hold up?
They all hold up. They're all they're all fantastic. They're all great. I had a tough time getting back into Remington Steele. That's one that I had a little trouble getting back into, but the Cagney and Lacey's phenomenal. Kojak, of course, Columbo's the go-to for everybody. McLeod is great. Starsky and Hutch is great. I've not regretted any, and I watch them from start to finish. I watch, if they're on 7 years, I watch all 7 seasons. I love it.
You know what? I saw a snippet of Starsky and Hutch recently. I don't even know what that's on or what app, but I was on it, and it was the line was Paul Michael Glaser. There was a dead body in a shower, and Paul Michael Glaser, this was literally a line. He goes, "Something tells me he didn't slip on a bar of soap."
See, that's good writing. That holds up, Pete. That holds up.
Every once in a while, you still see a car. Some guy still has that car, and it's I love it now. So,
did you have the shoes? We also had to have the Starsky shoes.
The Adidas, right?
Yeah.
Were they Adidas? Yeah.
I think they were.
That was a great look. I know that was the thing when we were kids. It was always, who do you like better? And I was kind of a Hutch guy, I think, because I liked the leather coat. And there was a girl in our neighborhood who liked Starsky, and she used to say, "He's cute, but he's a nut."
Oh, he is.
She's 11, and she's making this assumption.
Yeah, I see. Sure. I was more of a Starsky guy because I like a cardigan.
Oh yeah, that was a cool cardigan.
Remember that? It wasn't really a cardigan though. What was it? It was one of those sweaters that had the tie. You like almost like a robe. You would tie it.
Yeah.
I don't know what those are called.
Probably a cardigan. I don't.
Okay.
Starsky was like the more, he had a little more charisma. Hutch was like sort of dull, and then he put out that song that was dull. Don't give up on us.
Don't give up on us, baby.
Yeah. It's like he went with a ballad, and
it got him on the charts.
It did.
It worked. It worked, Pete.
Paid for his house, Jim.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's fantastic. Good for him. He deserves it.
I can only imagine.
Gotta live somewhere.
Do you still work the road ever?
Yeah, I do about this year. I think I'm doing 6 dates total. I go in, I do one night, and I get out. That's all I'm doing.
You don't have time to hug waitresses, even if you wanted to.
Oh, boy, do I want to, Pete. Oh, no.
You're that married guy.
As I made fun of the other guys. No, I don't. I zip in. I fly in the day of. I do the show, at the club or a very small theater, and then I get out of there. And I love it. I'm enjoying that again.
Cool.
I'm enjoying it
Yeah.
instead of the 3 and 4 days in one spot. I'm enjoying
Right.
just getting into doing, and really just one show. Sometimes we'll add a second show if there's demand, but it's made me enjoy it again.
Do you do any Wisconsin, like Comedy on State here or not in Madison right now? Here in Wisconsin is like one of the best clubs in the country, I'm told. Have you ever done that?
It's phenomenal. I did it right before the. I think I did it in early 2016, right before the election. So spirits were high, and so it's been a while since I've been there. It's been a minute, as the young people say. But I would get back there. I understand there's a great new club in Milwaukee too, at the Comedy Tap, I think it's called.
Yeah, and one of the owners of it is a host here, a daytime host, Greg Bach. He's also a comedian. And
all right, well, tell Greg. I didn't know that. Tell Greg that I'm happy to come in for one night, but one night, Greg. Don't get greedy with more than one. It's got to be.
He doesn't like me, but hopefully your reputation will proceed.
Is that true? You and Greg don't get along, Pete?
No, we get along great. He was on the show the other night. Great guy, and I will absolutely pass it along because I would love to help get you here somehow, and we could hang out, and you could come on live, or I could do the show from Milwaukee or something.
I would love to come on live. Are you kidding me? I'd like to sit in that chair that's behind you.
We got a lot of chairs, Jim. We can light you.
Okay.
We're going to take care of you. This is a full stop shop. So we played, and I said this before the break. We've actually played tag in a shopping mall, probably more than one, with Steve Iott when we did our three-headed. And the joke was we were three guys that just wanted to work together and hang out on the road. So we came up with this gimmick, the three-headed monster tour, 3 headliners for one show. And it was really more like 3 openers or middle acts. We weren't really, no one wanted to go last, it was just kind of like, we just wanted to hang out,
It was nothing but great fun. Certainly watching you and Steve Iott on stage was the highlight of it. And then, of course, the off time, those were back when I think all of us drank like crazy people. Yeah. And, but that was not, we were not drinking during the day. We had time during the day to kill. So we chose to, at the mall, play tag, a bunch of, 3 27-year-old dudes playing tag, and not just playing tag, but like rolling around on the ground to avoid people, jumping over clothing racks around magazine stands. Like it was stupid.
You don't see grown men doing that ever. That's what was so beautiful about it. And I loved, we were in a bookstore, and I feel like I've just told you this. Maybe last time you were on, I had a carton of milk because I had a Mrs. Fields cookie. And there was a really snotty guy working behind the counter. And I said, hey, do you mind throwing this away from me? He goes, actually, no. Can you throw it away out in the mall? Because if I put it back here, it'll start the stench. And Steve takes my milk carton and puts it up on a shelf. And he goes, how about there? Is that better? What do you think about that? I love him.
Steve,
hey,
top
can you
5
stick
funniest
around?
people.
Can you stick around for a few more minutes? We got to talk Chicago next. Are you
Love
game?
it. Yeah,
all right.
yeah,
Jim Pardo is here. We're talking Chicago. You can check out his Never Not Funny podcast. If you haven't, you have to. And check out Pop Cultured, the game show he is a part of and a big part of on July 13th at 9 p.m. Central at ucb.com. And we'll be right back with more. Jimmy Pardo. Right now we have award-winning news, folks, coming your way. I'm Pete Schwaba. This is Nite Lite on the Civic Media Radio Network.
You don't have to call me lieutenant. I don't want to be your son. Only lover I'm ever gonna need. A soft, sweet little girl strong. Dynamite set of every day. Flying with the bats. Little guns outside of Woolworths.
The Talk of Green Bay, WGBW. John Mino and Jim Schmidt.
On our next show, Mark Houston will join us from Bell and Sports Medicine for his weekly segment.
Then we feature the music of the Chocolatiers in our live music segment, brought to you by Heights Pub and Parlor.
Join us.
Mino and the Mayor, weekday mornings 6 till 9.
This radio commercial was made to convince you to stop speeding. We can't use siren sound effects on the radio, so we'll use other equally jarring sound effects to get your attention. Like telling you that whether you drive a little over the speed limit or a lot, you can crash just the same. You could hurt yourself, or worse, others.
I'm at the scene of the collision.
And the damage you cause will be beyond repair. See, we didn't have to use crash or siren sounds after all. Speeding catches up with you. Brought to you by NHTSA.
You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram. You're listening to the Talk of Green Bay. WGBW 1590 AM Denmark, W250 CV Green Bay, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
This is a special report from ABC News, the Biden News Conference. I'm Dave Packer. A political high-wire act for President Biden. After a dismal debate performance, he just conducted his first solo live unscripted news conference this year. While talking about the just concluded NATO summit, Biden also hoping to prove to voters he's sharper than he appeared during his debate with former President Trump and drawing a contrast.
My predecessor has made it clear he has no commitment to NATO. He's made it clear that he would feel no obligation to honor Article 5. He's already told Putin, and I quote, "Do whatever the hell you want." In fact, the day after Putin invaded Ukraine, here's what he said. It was genius.
A minor gaffe, as Biden called his running mate Vice President Trump, Biden needing to show his ability to carry on into a second term. 14 House Democrats and the first senator now openly calling for the president to end his campaign. This is ABC News. Actress Shelley Duvall has died.
1980 was a landmark year for two of Shelley Duvall's most famous roles.
Oh, come on, hon. Don't be so grouchy.
She played Jack Nicholson's tormented wife in The Shining and Popeye's girlfriend Olive Oyl in Popeye.
And all at once I knew.
Popeye, directed by Robert Altman, Duvall featured in 7 of his films, including 1975's Nashville. In recent years, Duvall retreated from the public eye and was open about her struggles with mental health. Her life partner, Dan Gilroy, said in a statement, Duvall had been suffering for many months, and he's glad she's not suffering anymore. Shelley Duvall was 75. Jason Nathanson, ABC News, Hollywood.
Former child actor Benji Gregory has also died. He's best known for playing the young son in the 1980s sitcom Alf. According to medical examiner records, Gregory died June 13th. Reports say his body was found in his car in the parking lot of a bank in Peoria, Arizona, along with his dog Hans. Cause of death under investigation. Dave Packer, ABC News.
Are you and your family weather ready? I'm Terry Barr. Wisconsin weather is ever changing, and all of us with Civic Media believe awareness can make a difference. Our weather ready stories will offer the information you need. Here's meteorologist Brittany Merlot.
You may have heard the word derecho as a part of the weather lately, but what do you know about it? Derecho is a Spanish word meaning direct or straight ahead. It's why you may hear straight line winds blamed for damage from a derecho. A downburst, which is an area of strong, damaging winds, causes a derecho, and the Weather Service does not issue warnings for these. They're just standard severe thunderstorm warnings. So this means you'll want to be weather ready during any severe storm. If you're outside, camping, hiking, boating, find a shelter. Otherwise, lie flat, face down, on low ground. Most derechos happen in July, and Wisconsin typically has 1 or 2 per year. But experts say climate change will only help increase these numbers. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot.
I'm Lisa Hale with WGBW News, your news roundup in quick podcast form. You can find it anywhere at the WGBW website, WGBW.fm.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Civic Media is reviewing procedures after an edited version of an interview between talk show host Earl Ingram and President Biden aired last week. CEO Sage Weil tells Todd Albaugh the choice made in the moment won't happen again.
This was a first for us. This is our first presidential interview, and the first time we've had these types of requests. And unfortunately, the judgment in the moment was not ideal. And so my job is to make sure that we prevent these types of mistakes going forward.
Ingram will stay on as host. Weil calls Ingram an invaluable voice for Milwaukee and Wisconsin. Wisconsin's Democratic Secretary of State is settling an open records lawsuit. Sarah Godlewski was appointed the same day Doug LaFollette resigned last year. Republicans are looking for evidence of a prior agreement. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Here's what you need to know closer to home.
The Brewers lose to the Pirates. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Brewers losing to the Pittsburgh Pirates today 1-0 at a matinee at American Family Field, 36,000 fans. Pittsburgh with one of the hottest young pitchers in baseball, Paul Skeens, just 22 years old, out of Fullerton, California, already headed to the All-Star game next week. That's Major League Baseball history. 1 year into the league, pitched a no-hitter through 7 innings. Christian Yelich headed to the All-Star game himself next week, went 0 for 4 today, and talked about facing Paul Skeens.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good pitcher. It's good stuff. He really did. He just did a good job pitching, honestly. Guys have velo in the major leagues, but, just being able to pitch and kind of just throw anything at any time, it keeps you off balance. And, I think we could have done a better job of getting him out of the game sooner. I think we let him off the hook with some at-bats there at the end where if we extended them, kind of realized what was happening, we could have bought ourselves an extra inning or two.
It's the first series the Brewers have lost at home since April. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. A stray evening storm otherwise clearing tonight and lows in the low 60s. Sunny and mild again tomorrow with highs in the mid-80s. Slight storm chances for the weekend, highs upper 80s to low 90s. Staying warm into Monday with a few storms, then cooler for the rest of next week. Right now it's 78 degrees.
Jane Matnair and Greg Bach.
Coming up on the show, Dan Schaefer is here from the Recombobulation area in hour number 2, the executive director of Gathering Waters.
Children play in the park, they don't know.
Coming up at 8:35, Nick Lipinski from the EAA will talk all about the big event in Oshkosh that is coming up very soon. Dick is the director of communications and a great guy. He'll join me in just a little while. Right now, we've got a few more minutes with Jimmy Pardo. Always love talking to Jim. You can check out his Never Not Funny podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, and check out the Pop Cultured Game Show July 13th at 9 p.m. Central at ucb.com. And if you want, you could do what I did today and Google Jim's stand-up on YouTube. Very funny. We played the clip earlier, Jim, of you picking a fight with a poster at Ross. Very funny bit.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. That's a 100% true story. I like to stick with truth. Pete, I'm wrong. It's ucbcomedy.com. That's on me.
Okay, no problem.
I was just looking that up. I know you were just complimenting how funny I was, and I wasn't paying any attention to it because I was confirming that website. Because I that's on me. I screwed up. I'm a miserable father.
We'll figure. That was a big jump.
I think we have our answer.
So let's talk some Chicago, Jim. I feel like, I'm a really big fan of Chicago. Always have been. You are probably the biggest fan I've ever met of this band. Worlds more than I do. Where are they? I say, there's Springsteen, U2, the Stones, and I put Chicago in a tier just under them, which some people might think that's too high. Maybe you think it's too low. I don't know. I think they're fantastic, and I think the life of the band after losing Terry Kath and the Peter Cetera years, it's incredible they've had that much success with kind of switching things up like that. Give me your take just as a whole on the band.
I will agree with everything you just said. I fear my fandom always comes into it where if I say, top band, I mean, the charts and other and concerts and such will let you know they are one of the top 10 biggest American bands of all time.
I would agree with that. Yeah, for sure.
But to go up against, my son and I went to see the Rolling Stones last night, and Oliver was excited about it because he's like, they might be in the top 3 biggest bands of all time. And then we were talking about this and talking about, it's probably the Beatles are kind of their own thing. And then you've got, the Stones, and you've got U2, and you've got Springsteen, certainly, Night Ranger. And then you've got from there, you've got your other big band. So I'm always hesitant to put Chicago too high up because I am such a huge fan, but I do believe that people dismiss them because of those ballad years. They forget, how influential of a band they were and how big they were. They would do 5 nights at the Forum here in Los Angeles. They would do 5 nights at the Stadium in Chicago. So they were were humongous. Then they went away. Then they were humongous again, almost as a different band in the 80s, with Cetera leading the charge with the ballads. Then Bill Champlin, in Chicago 18 and 19. So I would put them up there, Pete. That's my long-winded answer. I hear what you're saying about they're like on a rung down. I wouldn't argue with you on that. But I think they certainly should be a part of the conversation more than they are.
Well, I think what they did too is almost more impressive in a way. Like if Springsteen leaves the E Street Band, they're just a fun band, I guess, maybe at best. Bono, U2, whatever, Mick. But Chicago, to lose Terry Kath the way they did was so tragic and crazy. The fact that band had another life after that is what impresses me most about them. And it's fun to hear those guys, like on music documentaries, talk about Terry Kath and how some of them didn't like the direction the band went after that. And that may be the case. You're always going to have that with creative people, but did they have more top 10 hits after, or top 20 hits after Terry Kath died?
Well, they had more number one hits after Terry Kath. They had, had Hard to Say I'm Sorry and Look Away. To your point, Pete, after Terry Kath, they had that second life. They were dismissed for a while, right after Terry. The four albums that came out immediately after Terry, passed away still weren't huge. And then they came back with Chicago 16 with those ballad years. And then Cetera left. And then they still had a life after that where Chicago 18 to 19 sold very, very well. So they had almost three lives. And and then Cetera had his own career, his solo career. And Chicago's had great guitarists since Terry Kath. But, Terry was so unique and interesting that, anybody trying to play guitar for Chicago was going to try to fill shoes that probably never could. And that's not saying they're not great guitarists. They're phenomenal, but you're asking to fill in for probably many would consider a legend at this point.
Well, and I didn't know this, Jim, until I saw this about 5 years ago. I was watching a music documentary with my son Joe about Terry Kath, and I think at some point in the film, Jimi Hendrix said something like, "I hope I'm as good as him someday." Like that's how good Terry Kath was.
When Jimmy Pankow, the trombone player for the band, was on my podcast, I actually called him out on this because I asked him. I said, "Is this real, or is it a story that has like a snowball that has become like urban legend at this point?" Supposedly, Terry Kath saw Chicago, and Jimmy took him on tour. By the way, Hendrix took them on tour. So Hendrix saw Terry Kath at the Whiskey A Go Go and said, "Your horns act as one set of lungs, and your guitarist is better than I am." That's what he said. Now, he also put acid underneath his headband. So I mean, I don't know if that's accurate, but Terry was certainly amazing, and he too does not get the credit he deserves. Whenever you see the list of top 25 guitarists of all time, he certainly should be up there.
Yeah, that's interesting. My guest is Jimmy Pardo. He is the host of the Never Not Funny podcast, and he is a big part of the game show Pop Cultured, which you can see at ucbcomedy.com this Saturday night at 9 p.m. Central. Joins us now on Nite Lite. So where are you, Jim, with the two Chicagos? Leaving the third Chicago out, Kath, Cetera.
Well, I came into them, the first time I ever saw them, I grew up with my dad. My dad was a drummer in bands, like, cover bands, wedding bands growing up. So my dad was in bands that played Chicago. So I heard Chicago in the house a lot throughout the Kath years. And then I first saw Chicago in concert in 1981 at Chicago Fest. And I've now seen them over 100 times. And so I grew up in the Cetera era. So, I certainly love that era. I love the post-Terry era. In fact, if you asked me, if somebody came up and said, I want to get into Chicago, where do I start? They're one of the rare bands that I would say start with the greatest hits. You can't go wrong with that. But then go to Chicago 1, which is CTA, then go Chicago 2, Chicago 16, Chicago 17. Those are the five I would recommend to start with, then Chicago 5 after that. Or, if I may, Pete, the re-release of Chicago at Carnegie Hall, which I had the pleasure of co-writing the liner notes for.
Oh, I remember that. How cool was that? Wow.
It was I received two great phone calls in my life. One was when Conan O'Brien wanted me to fill in for Randy Richter. That was an amazing phone call. And then when I got the phone call to, do you want to write the liner notes for the re-release of Carnegie Hall? And I was like, I had these guys, their posters were on every inch of my wall, Chicago, growing up. And now I get to write the liner notes for their album. I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
What about the time I called you to make sure you were going to be ready at 3 o'clock to pick you up when we were going to Grand? I messed it up. You can't.
Want to take it again?
No.
What happened? Was I not ready?
No, I was. No, I was joking. I don't know if that phone call ever, existed. It was just a very mundane thing. So, Jim, a favorite Chicago song of all time?
Probably Dialogue off Chicago 5. Dialogue parts 1 and 2 would be up there. And then I love a song called Reruns off Chicago 13, which nobody enjoys. I think Beginnings off the first album is in my top 5.
That might be my favorite. That or that might be my favorite actually.
You know what, Pete? I'll tell you this. It was, if you would have asked me 3 years ago what my favorite was, and I said this for 30 plus years, Beginnings was my answer on not only my favorite Chicago song, but my favorite song of all time. But I don't know what's happened. Maybe it's again, the climate of the world or whatever, but Dialogue is taken over the number 1 spot. And again, I rank my Chicago songs on a regular basis if anybody wants to follow me.
That's great. I do think Old Days, just because, not like it's a masterpiece of songwriting, but that I just equate with my childhood and living on the Northwest Side off the Kennedys. Like, I just heard that. It's like an anthem almost.
It brings you right back, doesn't it?
Yeah, really. And that's what it's supposed to do. That's the goal of the song, and it really does do that.
Fun piece of trivia. Peter Cetera refused to sing it live because he hated the line about Howdy Doody. He hated that line. So he wouldn't sing it live.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing that. That's kind of weird.
Here's a fun story. We were at the Hollywood Bowl a few years ago, my son and my wife and I, and I was, this is going to sound so self-serving, but I was on my way walking backstage to say hello to my friends in the band. I say that sentence ridiculously. I think it's insane that I'm friends with the band, but I'm going back there and a guy stops me. What's that?
Just to see the guys.
Just I got to say hello to the fellas, tell them great job, and then get them on the bus and get them out of there. Some guy comes up to me. This is speaking of Old Days, by the way. He comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, that was a great show, huh? They didn't do my favorite though." And I said, "Oh, what's your favorite?" And he goes, "Roses." And I said, they don't have a song called Roses, sir." And he goes, "Yes, they do, and they didn't do it." And I said, "They don't, sir. They don't have a song called Roses." And he goes, "Yes, they do." I go, "How does it go?" And he goes, "Roses." And I said, "Oh, sir, you're thinking of Old Days, and they did do it." And he goes, "No, they didn't." And then he walked away. That was the conversation.
A conversation that was just wrong on every level. That's so great.
And that I was able to correct him in the spot, and he wasn't happy with the correction.
Oh, that's great. So, Jim, God, I got like 1 minute left with you, and I don't even know what to ask you.
Go,
so
take
much
60 seconds. Take your time, Pete. Hey, list off the coming up guests.
That could fill an hour. You sure? I don't know. So let me ask you this: What have you seen? Oh, let's do this. Let's bring it back to Nite Lite. Have you seen any of the blockbuster movies this summer?
We just saw Quiet Place Day 1. I thought it was phenomenal.
Oh, yeah, I liked it too. Loved it.
I saw Bad Boys 4. I thought it was garbage.
Where are you at on Will Smith? He wants to be back in the Academy now. How would they ever, if they let him back in? I'm like, make as many movies as you want. You're just going to have to be a rich, famous guy. I'm sorry. You don't get that. You forfeited that. To me, it should be for life.
I don't disagree with you. I think anytime you physically assault somebody, there should be ramifications.
All right.
So I'm with you, Pete. Good use of our last minute.
All right, these 6 dates. We got to work on that, Jim. You got to add a Wisconsin date. Let's try to do that.
I look forward to it. Get this guy, Greg, to give me a shout, and I'm happy to, I'll get up there. I love Wisconsin. I've always loved Milwaukee and, Sheboygan?
You were doing well there, and then you mispronounced Milwaukee and couldn't think of Sheboygan. So I don't doubt you love Wisconsin, but it's been a while.
I'm having a tough time, Pete. I'm rattled.
It'll be like riding a bike. Thanks so much, buddy. This is much fun.
My
I miss
honor.
you and I love you.
I love you too, pal, and thrilled that you asked me to be on. We'll talk soon.
All right, I hope so, buddy. All right, that's Jimmy Pardo. Check out the Never Not Funny podcast and watch Pop Cultured this Saturday night at 9 p.m. Central at ucbcomedy.com, July 13th. Jimmy Pardo, very funny. One of the good guys. One of the best guys, I'll say. We have a lot of fun. We're going to do What to Watch. That's coming up next. Maybe we'll talk about hugs more.
Let's go.
The talk of Green Bay, WGBW.
At Civic Media, we encourage active political engagement and remind listeners to think critically about political advertisements you may hear during this critical election year. Our stations are licensed by the FCC and are required to accept all ads for federal candidates. We also air state and local candidates as well as paid ads from issue and PAC groups. Truth is rarely as simple as any political ad may claim. So again, we urge you to think critically about what you hear in the spirit of promoting authentic and respectful civic dialogue.
Hi, this is Jim Schmidt, your former mayor of Green Bay. You know, I've always cared about local issues. I still do. Join me on my new show, Lean Local, here on WGBW. I'll interview community leaders and elected officials, discuss the economy and development projects, and we'll talk about the future of education here in Greater Green Bay. As they say, all politics is local. So join me for Lean Local, Sunday at 1 p.m.
Says Tyler in Columbia County on the text line. Hugs still require consent, and if asked, some may say no for medical reasons or make it easy. I get that. You say, I'm sorry, I can't hug you. It's a medical issue. Doesn't have anything to do with the fact that you're a creep or a weirdo. And then Tyler shared some, I don't know if they're memes or just posters. It's a yes, hugs, and then please hug me, or no hugs, and please don't touch me. You can put those on a T-shirt. Thank you, Tyler. That's great. Good to hear from you. Bridget says, I don't think you should hug in the workplace. She's in the 818. Hug outside of work. Keep it professional and respect boundaries. Yeah, I would agree with that, Bridget. Bridget also says, we'll read that next. We're going to do what to watch coming up next. But I think kind of the consensus on hugs. Conrad, have you been thinking about what you're going to watch? Because we're going to do that in just a minute here.
I shared it already.
Did you? What did you say?
Well, I
Milf
said,
Manor?
Yeah, well, there is a new episode dropping on Sunday, so I'll give it a watch. So I'll be watching the new Sausage Party.
Oh, you did say that. I just gave you. Let's do it now then. All right, it's What to Watch Thursday. Get your texts in, folks. Tell us what you're going to watch this weekend. You know you're going to watch something. Who doesn't watch television? I have color television at home. I'm not saying that to pump myself up. 855-752-4842. Get your suggestions in this segment. We'll read them. 855-752-4842. What to watch Thursday? What are you going to watch this weekend? Are you going to go to a movie? You going to stream something? You going to watch Jimmy Pardo on ucbcomedy.com at Saturday night, 9 p.m. Central? Lots of options out there. And I think, so let's start reading. I love you. All right. So Jimmy Pardo, let's start this. Jimmy Pardo says he's going to watch The Bear. He's been watching season 3, loves it. I have 2 other friends on social media that say they love it too. And then I've heard some other people who say The Bear season 3 is leaning a little too hard on their celebrity cameos. That could be the case. Doesn't mean it's not good though. So Jim's going to watch The Bear. Conrad is going to watch Sausage Party.
The new show.
The show,
it's called
not the movie.
It's called Sausage Party Foodtopia.
Yeah. Judge him if you will. And maybe he deserves it. I don't know.
It's funny.
But he says it's very funny.
It's funny. Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen. All right. I trust you. I'll have to check that out too. I'm going to watch this weekend, and I know what Jim just said. He saw Bad Boys 4 and it was terrible. I am going to finally see this so that when I hate on Will Smith, and I use the term loosely, I don't hate anybody, but I want to know what I'm talking about. And I've heard this is a piece of garbage, but it did get good reviews. So I'm going to check out Bad Boys this weekend. I'm also going to check out Maxine because I watched X last weekend actually, and this is one of the follow-ups to X. I have not seen Pearl yet. Who was it last night? Matt Miller said he saw Pearl, and it was very different and weird, but not necessarily bad. So that's that. Where's my list here? Okay. And we've got, let's see. Bridget says, I don't think, that's the hug one. Okay. Bridget also says, I heard they are remaking An Officer and a Gentleman with Miles Teller. I've heard that too, Bridget. I love the original, so I'm going to watch it. Great and powerful performances. Can't imagine doing better. Boy, he is a great cast for that role. I will say that. Miles Teller really is batting 1,000. Glenn Powell is kind of like the new it guy when it comes to acting. And he's good. I like Glenn Powell. But, man, Miles Teller, whether it's Whiplash or Maverick or The Offer, loved him in The Offer. He's a really good actor, and he has a really cool look, too. From the 7:04, I'm watching NFL Hard Knocks behind the scenes off season with the New York Giants. Okay, that's a good one, too.
I watched a little bit of that, and I really enjoy it.
So when the Chicago Bears are going to be on, as I understand
Yes.
it, but why
Yep.
is it 2 separate seasons? Is that how they do Hard Knocks?
So Hard Knocks is actually, they're doing 3 different ones. It's one that's right now, which is the off season, which is mainly the manager, coaches, off season moves. And then they have a preseason where it's training camps, stuff like that.
Okay.
And then there's one in season, which I believe the Chicago Bears are going to be the preseason one. And I don't know if I don't know if they released who's in season this year yet.
Okay. Interesting. So, but the Giants one is good.
It really shows what goes on behind the scenes. I really enjoy it.
Okay, my buddy Nick just texted me. He is going to finally see Inside Out 2, even though he doesn't like kids' movies, because I have been babbling about it so much, because I just love that movie so much. Also from the 7:04, we don't have a name, but he says, I watched Last Stop in Yuma County. Great movie. Okay. I did too. I loved it. Have you seen that, Conrad?
I have not.
It's good. And talk about, it's a great movie, like a period piece set in the 70s at a roadside stop in Arizona somewhere. A gas station that has like a diner attached to it and then like a 5-room motel. It's all run down.
Where can you see that?
Let's go to the Google. I want to say Netflix.
We love going to the Google.
We do go to the Google fairly often. This just says Google Play. Why doesn't it tell me what? I think it's Netflix. You know what? Try Netflix. I think it's on Netflix.
Okay.
Or just go to Roku. Everybody's a Roku now anyway. Just search it on Roku.
It's actually Apple TV.
That's what I meant. I knew it was red. Red is apples. Yeah, check it out. It's a really good movie, though. There's a scene in the middle of the movie where everything kind of comes to a head. And I'm not going to say it's slow, because they introduce all these characters where you're like, what's this guy's deal? And the kind of the consensus of the movie, or the to paraphrase what it's about, they have the gas station is out of gas. And we see at the beginning of the movie, the tanker flipped over. So all these people are in a diner waiting to buy gas, waiting for the tanker to get there. 2 of them are bank robbers. And it's just, it goes in directions I did not see coming. And I love a movie that does that. It's not predictable. Right up until the end. Really good, solid watch. So there's some good suggestions for you guys for this weekend on what to watch Thursday here at Nite Lite with Pete Schwaba. So, Conrad, we have Dick Napinski coming up.
Yeah?
That's exciting. EAA. One of the biggest events in the whole state, not just Northeast Wisconsin, but they 700,000 people come to Northeast Wisconsin. I'm going to ask Dick how they manage that. We'll talk about that, and we'll ask Dick what he watches on TV, because he's the communications director for an event that size. He's got to go home and just chill, I would think, at night. I guarantee you, even though I've never met Dick, I think he's going to have some good suggestions for us.
I can also tell you a story about Harrison Ford and my uncle at...
Really?
Yeah, EAA.
Oh, yeah. You do get some celebrities there once in a while, because it's such a big deal. Yeah. All right, let's do that. Let's do that next. We'll come back. Maybe you could share that with Dick, Conrad.
Sure.
And you could tell him all about Sausage Party coming up this weekend. So look at that. Hey, it's great to have you with us. Broadcasting statewide, wherever you are in Wisconsin. We love having you. We love talking with you. Please feel free to share your thoughts. Dick Napinski coming up next from the EAA. This is Nite Lite with Pete Schwaba on the Civic Media Radio Network.
You're listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW.
This is a special report from ABC News, the Biden News Conference. I'm Dave Packer. A political high-wire act for President Biden. After a dismal debate performance, he just conducted his first solo live unscripted news conference this year. While talking about the just concluded NATO summit, Biden also hoping to prove to voters he's sharper than he appeared during his debate with former President Trump and drawing a contrast.
My predecessor has made it clear he has no commitment to NATO. He's made it clear that he would feel no obligation to honor Article 5. He's already told Putin, and I quote, "Do whatever the hell you want." In fact, the day after Putin invaded Ukraine, here's what he said. It was genius.
A minor gaffe, as Biden called his running mate Vice President Trump, Biden needing to show his ability to carry on into a second term. 14 House Democrats and the first senator now openly calling for the president to end his campaign. This is ABC News.
This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. The family of a black man killed during a struggle with security guards in Milwaukee last month say they don't want his case forgotten. Milwaukee is gearing up for next week's Republican National Convention. Devontae Mitchell's family says they saw security video of guards punching and kicking him, and he was not armed. It's not clear why Mitchell was at the hotel or why the confrontation started. Donald Trump has a 9-point lead among voters age 50 and older in Wisconsin. That's from a new poll from the AARP. Pollster Bob Ward says older voters are worried about Social Security and unhappy about the economy.
The debate had its impact on this race, but I think the fundamentals of this race is that people are really feeling an economic pinch.
Ward says older voters appear more motivated than usual. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Here's what you need to know closer to home.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. The family of a black man killed during a struggle with security guards in Milwaukee last month say they don't want his case forgotten. Milwaukee is gearing up for next week's Republican National Convention. Devontae Mitchell's family says they saw security video of guards punching and kicking him, and he was not armed. It's not clear why Mitchell was at the hotel or why the confrontation started. Donald Trump has a 9-point lead among voters age 50 and older in Wisconsin. That's from a new poll from the AARP. Pollster Bob Ward says older voters are worried about Social Security and unhappy about the economy.
The debate had its impact on this race, but I think the fundamentals of this race is that people are really feeling an economic pinch.
Ward says older voters appear more motivated than usual. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Here's what you need to know closer to home.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. A stray evening storm otherwise clearing tonight and lows in the low 60s. Sunny and mild again tomorrow with highs in the mid-80s. Slight storm chances for the weekend, highs upper 80s to low 90s. Staying warm into Monday with a few storms, then cooler for the rest of next week. Right now it's 76.
Hey, Wisconsin, it's construction season, and the Wisconsin DOT wants to help you safely navigate work zones. Check 511wi.gov or download the app for road work or closures on your route. Know before you go with 511 Wisconsin. Sponsored by the Wisconsin DOT.
The Todd Alba Show.
Andrew Hahn, he is a data journalist, and he maps out in this article what makes Wisconsin great. 96% of Wisconsinites live within 30 minutes of Quick Trip.
Wisconsin is one of those places that has a cultural identity that's unique to this place. And when we tell stories like this, it reminds people that we all come from this place and we all share a goal, genuinely, of trying to make this state a better place.
The Todd Alba Show. Weekdays noon till 2 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
Fear you may be missing out? We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. Enjoy listening live or catch up by finding the podcast at civicmedia.us or wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts.
Todd Alba.
Hey, everybody, join us next time. We'll be live from our
great song. I love that song when I was a kid, and I didn't realize until I got much older. That's a guy sitting in an apartment above the Whiskey A Go-Go on Sunset Boulevard trying not to do drugs, or more drugs, I should say. Still a great song, though, but that was a fun discussion with Jimmy Pardo. All right, we're going to pivot here. I am very excited. It's so much fun broadcasting statewide here. I always want to know what's going on around the state. If you don't know about this next event, I'm convinced you just don't read any kind of news, or I don't want to use the cliche, live in a cave. What's a better cliche, Conrad? Come on, give me a cliche. Come on. All right. No, it's my pleasure to welcome to Nite Lite a first-timer who I've been very excited to meet this guy because I've heard nothing but great stuff. He's the Director of Communications for the EAA event in Oshkosh, which is just around the corner. And he joins us now on Nite Lite, Dick Napinski. Hey, Dick.
Hey, how's it going, Pete? Great to see you.
Great to see you, too. Thanks so much for taking the time. It's great to have you on the show. Because I know how busy you must be. I can't even imagine, how your life must be leading up to this event. I was just looking at some of the information. How does Northeast Wisconsin handle 700,000 people?
Well, very well, actually, when you come down to it,
Yeah?
Pete. It is something, we have people, first of all, they camp next to their airplanes. We have thousands of them who camp next to their airplanes.
That's so cool.
And then we have 40,000 who camp right adjacent to the flight line. They drive in, they pitch their tent, bring in their motorhome, their campers, and so forth. Then a 50-mile radius, use university dorms at UW Oshkosh and down at Marion University and out at Ripon College. A lot of people rent their homes. There are hundreds of people who rent out their houses for this event. And a lot of them have ended up meeting friends who they've gone overseas to see their newfound friends or people that have been staying in their house for 10, 20 years and so forth. So it is a marvelous piece of choreography and a marvelous piece of cooperation that allows everybody to come in here to Oshkosh and make the world's greatest aviation celebration.
That is really impressive, and it gives me hope that Green Bay will be able to handle the draft in 2025 because there's a whole bunch of people coming here for that too. So I think if Oshkosh can do it with EAA, Green Bay will probably pull it off one way or the other. Maybe they need you to coordinate things. But all right. So Dick, how did you get connected with this event? How long have you been with EAA? And for someone who's never been there before, what can you tell them about the event and why they should go?
Okay, well, I'm kind of at the opposite end of never having been there before. This is number 32 on staff, and I think 36 or 37 overall. So I remember back in the late 70s when it was about half the size it is now. But it just was one of those things. I come out of actually the broadcast side, and there was just a quirk of fate that I was looking for something back in 1992. They were looking for somebody to join the communication staff at the time. It kind of folded together at that point. And after that, it just became, well, you kind of, it gets in your blood a little bit. And then you enjoy aviation and enjoy the people and kind of stay there. And really, that's part of it, Pete. Our founder, Paul Poberezny, used to always say, people come to this event for the airplanes, but they come back for the people. And the people are you get to meet people from around the world. A lot of friends. We call it Aviation's Family Reunion because you see people you see once a year. You share those stories. How's the family been? All of those type of things. And one thing I really like about it is you can be in the campground and you can have a CEO camping next to a welder. And neither one knows what the other one does, nor do they particularly care because they're both there for the airplanes. And that's one of the great things about the event. There is a culture there that, look, regardless of politics, regardless of background, regardless of what your job is for 51 weeks a year, here we're about the airplanes. And we welcome people to come join us and do that. And if you've never been there, just think of a place that is an aviation city that has a collection of people and airplanes that really together no place else in the world like this. Oshkosh is the biggest one. It's one of the few like this, and it's the one that everybody talks about around the world.
It's really impressive. I remember my dad used to go. He used to be a pilot, and he would get so excited about it. And I just, if you're a pilot, you love it. And I know there are people that go that aren't pilots that just are fascinated by the aircraft, and that's where I fall in. Are you a pilot?
I am. Yep. I started
Yeah.
flying back in 1996, and it was kind of fortunate. EA had ground school you could take as being an employee, and took that,
wow.
and then went for an introductory flight, and yeah, I was hooked. And so, that's as they say, well, you got the disease now, you're done. And and so you end up hanging around airplanes and earning my pilot certificate, and it really has led to a great accomplishment in your life. Any pilot will tell you that first solo flight or that first one you go out after you earn your certificate is something special. You get to fly your spouse or your kids or your mom or something like that. And just, mom is always a little wary because she's going, really? This is the kid who wouldn't pick up his room, and now he's doing this. So, those are the kind of things that take place. But, people coming in here will notice that. So if you like airplanes, or if you like technology, if you like history, heck, if you like to people watch, this is a great place to do it.
Yeah.
Because there's so much happening all the time over 7 days.
That's a great answer. Dick, last year there was a couple accidents at the event. How do you guys deal with that? Is that ever, from a PR standpoint, do you ever worry about that? Or is everybody there, is it such a solid branding you guys have done that they know that's part of the drill, and those things can happen when you're flying around like that?
Yeah, and the first thing, in the couple of acts, they're always tragic when those type of things happen, and it's definitely not a good day. I can tell you that straight away, from a communication sense. But the one thing you have to look at is what happened there. And pilots are a unique breed. They will read the NTSB reports and go through them and say, okay, what did that person do that maybe I can learn from? And what can we as an event do that we can learn from? One of the accidents took place 5 miles away from the mountains. We're still not sure exactly what happened there and what was happening with the pilot and the aircraft at that time. And so that is something that we look forward to seeing, that final report, to say, okay, what do we do? What can pilots learn from this? What can we as an event learn from it? And we end up working very closely with NTSB and FAA and the airport and everything else to try to mitigate that risk as much as you possibly can. But as everybody knows, whether you're driving or boating or riding a motorcycle or heck, even out on a bicycle, there is some risk involved in it, because things happen very quickly sometimes.
Indeed. And that's a great answer. And I find it almost uplifting when stuff like that happens, as terrible as it is. People always somehow come back to the idea that they die doing what they love. They would do it again. They just want to fly, and they know the risks. So that's kind of like, it's kind of like a you only live once type philosophy, I guess.
Well, there's a lot of that. In aviation, it's a pursuit of something that takes you beyond the usual day-to-day life. Less than 1/2% of all of the American population has a pilot's license. And, when you think about that, that's a very interesting segment. And a lot of people think of piloting for airliners or in the military, but there are a lot of ordinary people like myself and like people who may live right in your neighborhood who just love flying. There is something about it. People who own Harleys and, that they live to ride. People who are runners and they live to run. Well, that's the same thing with airplane people. It is their passion. It is something that that machine is special to them. The things they can do with it and the way they can travel with it is special to them.
It's something else. What do you have a favorite? My guest, by the way, is Dick Napinski. He is the communications director for the EAA event that takes place in Oshkosh later this month. Dick, what do you have a favorite part of the whole event for you?
Oh, man, I tell you, a couple of my favorite parts, Pete. One of them has to be the honor flight that we have every year on Friday of the week. American Airlines donates the airplane and the crew. They're all volunteers. They're crew members, the flight attendants, the pilots, everybody volunteers their time. And they send one of their 757s or 737s in, and they take 100 Vietnam veterans off to Washington, leave early from the airport.
Wow.
And then they come back right at the end of the air show that day, after a day in Washington, D.C. Now, you've got to remember, the Vietnam vets, they really didn't get a really warm welcome when they returned home when they were 19 years old back in the early 70s.
Right.
And to have 40,000 people waiting for them to cheer them when they get off that airplane. It's an emotional moment and one of my favorite moments of the entire week. Another one of my favorite moments is usually after the air show. Right about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening. 8 o'clock, the airport closes for the day, and just to walk around and look at the airplanes. Photographers call that the golden hour. The light is just right and everything else.
Yeah.
And you start talking to people and just, where are you from? How many times have you been to Oshkosh? Did you fly here? What's your favorite airplane? Things like that. And just get into conversations and just learn some things and take some time and just kind of let it wash over you a little bit and really appreciate this unique event and what it means not only for aviation, but for the Fox Valley and Wisconsin.
The EAA takes place this year, July 22nd through the 28th. You can find more information at eaa.org. Dick Napinski is my guest. Dick, do you have every year, you must see so many cool different aircrafts. Do you have a different one every year that you really get excited to see, or is it the same every year? From an aircraft standpoint, what are your faves?
Oh man, I've got some personal favorites. I always say my favorite airplane is whatever one I happen to be flying at the moment. But you take a look. One of my all-time favorites has to be from World War II, the P-38 Lightning. You got the twin tails, and it was very, very fast. It was the airplane of choice by Medal of Honor recipient Richard Bong, who was from northern Wisconsin near Superior. That one is just, ever since I was a little kid, one of my favorites. I take a look at some of the old biplanes that come in here from the 1920s and just so lovingly restored, and the wood and fabric and wires that come together to make that airplane. And it, flies at a grand speed of 80 miles an hour full out. But what a fantastic way to fly, open cockpit like that. Those type of airplanes just fascinate me. There's one that is from the early 1950s, an airliner. It's called the Lockheed Constellation. It's got kind of a dolphin back to it, a triple tail, perhaps one of the most elegant airplanes ever designed. And it was very, very popular as a passenger airliner for about a decade until it was overtaken by the jet age. But there are only a couple of them flying now, and they are just so wonderful to see. And then you see just goofy ones. Last year we had NASA's Super Guppy, which is a cargo airplane that looks like somebody left the air hose in too long because it just kind of blows up on the top, and they use it to haul rocket parts from NASA. And it's kind of a pound puppy of airplanes. It's so ugly, it's cute. And, it's sitting there, and it's only been here twice, but each time, it's been a rock star. People just look at it and go, wow, that thing flies. And they go, yep, that thing flies. You put a big enough engine on anything, you can fly anything. And that's the point.
That is so cool. If you have a family, Dick, and you wanted to take your family out to this, from a price standpoint, how does it compare with other events going on? Is it affordable? Do you have discounts or anything like that?
Yeah, one thing we did that's made a big difference over the last 3 years, with help from Boeing Company, 18 and under are free of charge to come in because we want to introduce aviation to young people. So families can come in and really very affordable. You think about going to a Brewer game, what tickets cost. You think about going to a Packer game, what tickets cost these days with parking and everything else. So we try to make it affordable, and we do measure against other activities in the state, whether they're, Wisconsin Dells activities or sporting activities or Summerfest State Fair and things like that. And we're right about in the mid-range of things. So it is affordable for the family.
That's great. Dick, I have 2 more questions for you. Can you hang for 1 minute?
Be happy to. Thanks, Pete.
All right. Dick Napinski is my guest. He is the Director of Communications for the EAA event, which takes place July 22nd through the 28th this month. Get your tickets now at eaa.org. We'll be right back with a few more minutes with Dick Napinski. This is Pete Schwaba and Nite Lite on the Civic Media Radio Network.
When you feeling blue, I'm waiting just for you. Someone's living for their love. Someone's living for their love. And I love her. And I love her.
You're listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home of Mino and the Mayor.
The Republican National Convention is being held in Milwaukee, and it marks the first time the RNC is in the Badger State. But Wisconsin holds a special spot in the election cycle, with the RNC the second consecutive political convention in Milwaukee. The city was picked for the Democratic National Convention in 2020, but due to COVID, most of it ended up being virtual. Do you know which city has hosted the most political conventions? Philadelphia, Chicago, or Boston? The answer coming up. Political conventions started in the 19th century. It remained the main way to select candidates until 1972, when presidential primaries determined the eventual nominee. Conventions are now considered more of a celebration of the candidate. So do you know which city has held the most political conventions? Chicago. The Republicans have been there 14 times, and the Democratic convention will be hosted there for the 11th time this summer. 50,000 people expected at the RNC in Milwaukee, a nice slice of Wisconsin for the
Welcome back. My guest is Dick Dempinski. We have a couple more minutes with Dick. He is the communications director for the EAA event in Oshkosh, which takes place July 22nd through the 28th. You can find more information at eaa.org. I feel like, Dick, I shouldn't even have to say that because this is such a staple when it comes to events in Wisconsin. I feel like everybody knows more about it than me, but you are really good at your job, my friend. I would imagine you could do a lot of this in your sleep.
Well, sometimes, my wife says I don't talk about it in my sleep, so that's probably a good thing when you think about it. But
so she gets a break.
Yeah, she gets a break. But you do, there's so much history and being around it for so long, it's fun telling the stories. It really is, because the people who come in and the people you meet, not only the famous people, but the ordinary folks who come in and just have that airplane that maybe they've been building. For instance, this year we talked about the P-38 before. There's a guy from Indiana coming up. And his uncle spent almost 2 decades before he died building a 2/3 scale P-38 fighter. And so the nephew is going to fly it up here to Oshkosh for the first time and have it on the line. And it's just one of those things you go, what an interesting backstory. And then you have people like Miss America who will be here, and she's active duty Air Force. And so that fits in very well. So Madison Marsh will be here for a couple of days as well. So you get the entire spectrum coming here. And really that's what makes it so interesting and such an interesting event on a worldwide level.
It's so great. And one of the reasons I wanted you to stick around is because Conrad has, we talk a lot about show business on this show, movies, TV, comedy, music, entertainment. And I know you get your fair share of celebrities at EAA. Conrad has a story.
Yeah.
Take it away, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I forget how old I was at the point. I think I was around 12. But my uncle, he got his pilot certificate. He likes to fly into EAA. And one time he met Harrison Ford there. And I was with my cousin somewhere else. And he tells his wife, my aunt, go grab the kids quick. They can take a picture. And we got there too late. Harrison Ford left. That was the time I almost met Harrison Ford, because my cousin and I loved Indiana Jones, Star Wars, everything. Huge fan of him. We were so sad the rest of the day. But still, we got to see the Blue Angels. It was such a cool day, though.
Harrison Ford, by the way, who should not be allowed anywhere near a plane. He's had like 2 accidents in the last 5 years, hasn't he?
He can fly the Millennium Falcon, so
that's true.
Yeah. Well, he flies a lot of different things, and actually, one of my favorite stories with him is he actually flew one of his helicopters and rescued somebody from the side of a mountain in Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Oh, yeah.
This was probably about 15 years ago. So it's people often get known for the mishaps, which you try to prevent as much as you can. Sometimes something happens, and it's any piece of technology or machinery. But Harrison Ford is very popular. It's been fun to meet those type of people. Some of the people from the sporting world, Ken Griffey Jr., the Hall of Famer in baseball, is a pilot, and he's been there several times. Morgan Freeman, Kurt Russell, John Travolta, those people have all been to Oshkosh. And people think about the star power, but really the stars are the things with the wings on them out there that are flying all the time. And those are the ones that come back year after year and make Oshkosh special.
That's so great. Dick, I got one more question for you. I mentioned we talk about TV and movies on the show. Can you recommend anything when you're done communicating and directing communications for your event? What are you watching on TV? Are you binge watching anything, or have you seen any of the summer blockbuster movies?
The thing that I watch, of course, is Masters of the Air, the series that was, of course, about airplanes, and that. I'm a guy who likes old movies, and so I'll be on TCM and watch some of those sometimes.
Nice.
First of all, there are no commercials; it's a little bit of escapism, and you can watch the old stuff. And sometimes, I always remember the original King Kong when he's on the Empire State Building and there are the biplanes flying around him. And you look at the special effects now and says, that's hokey as heck, but boy, is it fun. And, and then of course, people say, what's your favorite aviation movie? I say Airplane. It's so goofy that it's
love
just,
it. It's so great. We were just talking about that the other night. What about Top Gun? Are you a fan of Top Gun Maverick or the originals?
Top Gun. You can tell it's, people, spit lines at me all the time with that. We have the Need for Speed and, all of that kind of stuff. And, but that's one of those iconic movies. And the Navy will tell you after they did the movie, recruitment went up very much back in the mid 80s because suddenly it became a glamorous thing. I want to go fly one of those airplanes.
Yeah. Right. Dick, thanks so much for your time. Keep up the great work. It was great to meet you. And please come back soon, and let's keep this thing going. Good luck this year. I hope everything goes well.
Well, thanks so much, Pete. I hope you can come out and join us sometime, and we'll see everybody out on the flight line starting the 22nd.
Would love to. All right, have a great event. Thanks, Dick.
Thank you.
That is Dick Napinski. He's the communications director for EAA. Go to EAA.org and find out more information. Find out about tickets. The event this year is July 22nd through the 28th, and have a great time. I would like to get Conrad. Aren't Mino and the mayor going to be there?
Yeah. Actually, they're going to be doing it live from the EAA.
How do we not get comped into that baby? What happened there?
Well, I think that might be closed by the time.
My breath or what? All right. So we were going to talk about the film Boyhood tonight. We didn't get to it. This is a masterpiece of a movie. We'll talk about it tomorrow night. The film took 12 years to shoot with the same actors. It was nominated for a Best Picture in 2014. I thought it should have won. Richard Linklater is the director. We'll talk about that tomorrow. I've got some great clips, but I want to thank my guests tonight, Dick Napinski from the EAA, Jimmy Pardo from the Never Not Funny podcast, and you can check out Jimmy at ucbcomedy.com this Saturday night, hosting or being a part of the game show Pop Cultured. And thank you, as always, for all your texts and taking part in What to Watch Thursday and discussing the etiquette of hugging. I don't know if we came to any conclusions to that. Did we, Conrad?
I feel like it's definitely situational. Never do it.
Most people
in
just
a
don't do it.
workplace,
Well, definitely not in the workplace. Go around hugging people.
Well,
that won't last long.
Got to highlight the text there.
What's that? We getting? I got to read this. Wait. Oh, I missed one. Okay.
Yeah.
What's this? Tyler from Columbia County again. We annually camp at Camp Scholler. I commute to work from the grounds a few days and even have volunteered. Make sure to check out the seaplane base. It's EAA Lakeside Vacation Spot. That is awesome, Tyler. Thank you so much for the recommendation. I should have read that when Dick was on the air. But we'll have Dick back again soon. That was fun. Thank you, everybody, for being part of Nite Lite tonight. Hope you have a great night. We will be back tomorrow night with Terry Barr and Lisa Hale. And as always, more fun talk that brings us together about movies and TV and music and comedy. I'm Pete Schwaba on behalf of Conrad. Good night, Wisconsin.